Hey beautiful souls, it's Hannah here. I am the Life Purpose Queen, awakening you to your dreams. And I'm talking tonight about when people leave me. It's taught me how to love myself, but that hasn't come without a lot of pain in the start, right? Now, I've got a lot of different avenues and threads to talk about this. So let's see who joins the live. I've literally just come out of the Reality Awareness support group doing live psychic readings for Psychic Reading Sunday. So I'm already seeing some of you join live that were in the group as well, and I didn't get to do everyone, and that so annoys me. So I'm like, I'll read really fast so I can read everybody, and it just doesn't happen. Not in an hour. Not in an hour. Hey guys. Hey Sarah. Hey Katrina. So lovely to see you, Katrina. I feel like I haven't seen you for ages. Okay, let me share this. And guys, the Reality Awareness support group is there if you need support. But the Reality Awareness retreat is coming really soon. So if you haven't booked on yet, you want to claim your place, please send me a message or the link. I'll put it in the comments as well. Hello again. Yes, people joining live again. All right, let me share this. So this topic I got asked to talk about as well, and it's interesting because this came out of the Trust Intuition group, and it was a space of really just it was just a passing comment, right? And I think because I was going to write a blog on it, or I was going to I think I just said, literally, when people have left me in my life, whether it's an intimate relationship or whether it's friends or I've left them, it's what it has done and what it does is it teaches us to love ourselves. But at the time, it doesn't feel like it, right? It feels like a bucket load of pain. So give me some love hearts or comment yes below if you resonate with that. If that's when people have walked away from you, whether you've realized that it's actually made you become stronger, it's made you become the person you are today. Maybe it hasn't come with feeling really comfortable in that space for quite some time, right? So who's experienced that, and perhaps you're maybe well, actually, I don't even know what that feels like yet because I'm just in so much pain and I just miss them and I want them back, or, that sort of thing. But ultimately, what it has done for myself is literally taught me how to love myself, but it hasn't come without pain. So let's talk about this. Yep, definitely. Yep, some love hearts there. Yes. Good morning, Diane. Welcome. So the big part about this, right, when people leave, or if there is a change in relationship even, right, it doesn't even have to be a breakup or somebody leaving you. It literally can just be a change in the relationship. And that can come in a sense of, whether, you start doing spiritual work and you're growing and changing, and you can feel that change within yourself and you're noticing it in reality. And say if you're still in a relationship, that can feel like a breakup because there's a change, the dynamics have changed. All of a sudden, especially if you've been doing deep inner work, you don't kind of react or you don't do the things you used to do. And so this person can also feel abandoned and more stuff can come up for them because you're not playing into that energetic dynamic anymore of who you used to be. Now, when, that can happen, and then sometimes we do need to move away and we don't want to be in that relationship anymore, or whatever the story is, the thing that, even when there's been a relationship breakup, and I'll talk about myself, and I haven't wanted I didn't want it to be the end, right? It was the most painful thing in the world. Now, most of those times when I look back over the many years that I've been alive, and those times when I didn't want it to end, even though I was I knew it was shit towards the end, or it was unhealthy or toxic, it was still like the worst thing had been ripped away from me, and I would never be able to cope and survive and, continue on, right? And it's in those moments of the death and destruction and the biggest, the biggest, deepest hole that you've ever kind of put yourself in is you don't even think you can ever find someone again, or that, they're the one for you, and how can you ever love again because, and how come they didn't see it, or, whatever the story was, that like that big gaping hole, you know, like that can take a bit of time to heal. And, you know, a lot of people will hang on to relationships because they don't want to face the pain. They don't want to face the pain of being alone. They don't want to face the pain of, you know, what that brings up and the reality. And as I always say, right, the thing that we're usually grieving the most is usually the things that didn't even fucking happen, right? Because usually when we're in a relationship that we know is kind of probably not something we should stay in, right? We're kind of like, oh, well, just stay here because maybe it will work out, or I'm doing work and then there's a change and it's positive, and then you're actually like, oh no, I actually need to walk away, right? And so in this space, it's like really being aware that there's all these different parts playing out, and the thing that we're grieving the most is usually like the dreams that didn't happen, like whether it was getting married and having kids and settling down and having a white picket fence, or whether it was traveling the world, or whatever the story was, whatever the thing that didn't happen is usually what we're grieving. And it's so important to remember that when we are hey, I see everyone joining live, hi, when we are grieving a relationship, that it's okay to grieve, like, and it's important to remember to grieve for that stuff, right? Yeah, we grieve the illusion of the relationship, yeah, because a lot of the time we've already grieved a lot of the crap that's in it, right? Now, I know for me, like in this past few years, and I've been speaking about it this week, right? It's been really in my face with all these men turning up, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here, right? And it dawned on me yesterday. We're grieving the idea of, yes, that's right. Hey, Lita, Alison, and Anna, I see you all joining live. And so in this space, it's really like being conscious of what, you know, we're grieving. And at times, you know, especially when we're first grieving, you know, like the biggest chunk of the grief will come first, right? In a sense, like we're just like, it's like death, you know, and it just feels so huge. And I know for me it was so huge, and I'll tell you why it was so huge. You know, not all of them, well, I would say that a lot of them, right? I find that for me, the grief, and this is something to keep in mind for yourself, for other people, for things that go on, and there's never any wrong decisions, but there's usually little, you know, things that kind of tweak us along the way, and we're like, like when we're not listening to our intuition, right? I know for me personally, the most detrimental breakups that I've ever had that have sent me down the spiral of like darkness that I've never ever experienced before, like when I have gone to the depths of the darkness of the spirals of those like breakups, of those ones, they're usually the ones that right at the start I wasn't listening to my intuition, like, don't enter into this relationship, Hannah, don't enter. And what did I do? I entered, and it all of a sudden becomes an attachment. It's not that, like, you know, any relationship, I mean, like, I know it sounds very cold in a way, but it becomes an attachment. It becomes a way to fill us up. It becomes something that we're used to, you know, like, and that's the thing. And as you said, like Kylie and a lot of you picked up, like, it's the illusion. It's not just the illusion, it's the promises that were made. Yes. And Josephine says, I usually ask myself if it feels like it's over. Yeah, and that's the thing, like really like tuning in to that, because sometimes it can feel like it's over and it's not exactly, right? And we're like we're grieving the promises that were made, we're grieving the hopes and dreams, we're grieving our expectations in the relationship, not the reality, like we've been talking about with Third Eye and everything. So, and I know, as I said, like those parts where, like those relationships over the years where I've walked into and there's been signs and I should have walked away ages ago, right? And I didn't listen to, I didn't want to listen to them because it was so amazing, right? And it really wasn't. Like, you know, it's like, again, that kind of illusion or the potential or the like, or like, you know, didn't want to be alone or, you know, that sort of thing, or actually that craving that relationship. Like I've shared in the blog yesterday, I'm like, actually, what the fuck is this? Like this part of me, when I talk about shadow work, we talk about dropping deep down underneath, is that in that sense, we're like looking, like for me, when I realized in the blog yesterday, I'm like, why are these like needy? Like they felt like needy men turning up. I'm like, get away from me. Like I don't want to be with you. Like what is going on? Like, you know, and I'm like, what? There's a part of me calling this in. I'm like, what the fuck's going on in my subconscious, right? And this is when we like dig deep down, and I was just like, oh, I've actually been denying that reality that I do want a relationship. I've actually been denying the reality that I do want a partner. I've actually been denying that. Like, I'm just like, nah, it's fine. I'm fine. I'll just do it myself. It's fine. Like, it's not like I want someone to do it with me in a, like, you know, in a needy way, maybe. Or maybe I need to look at the needy part of myself too, right? And because of all these, like, needy things. But the needy, they're not needy. Maybe they are. It felt like it to me because I'm like, go away. I don't want a relationship. But actually, what my subconscious was projecting was I do want a relationship. I literally, like, almost every day, I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And so, like, talking to that part of myself that actually wants a loving relationship, and instead of like denying that fact and pushing it away, because, you know, when we push something away, what do? It's almost like we're pushing it out of our consciousness in a way. It goes unconscious. And so what does the universe listen to? Our conscious mind or our subconscious mind? Usually it's like, you know, big chunk of subconscious, and we're vibrating things, and this is what we're vibrating. So it's kind of like, that's what I've been pushing out there. And so that's what all these things are coming in my face, right? But what happened when I was like, oh my God, there's actually this part of me. I was like, come here, like pulling myself back to me. I'm like, come here, like, it's okay. It's okay to freaking own the fact that you want to be in a relationship. It's okay to be in, like, you know, want to have a relationship that we can enjoy life with and have amazing sex and do all sorts of amazing things that we do in a partnership, right? And so it's like, when I brought that part of me back in, when I literally was like, oh my God, right? And then I did some work on the shadow work and pulling myself back into myself and just like actually honoring that fact that I do want a relationship. All of a sudden, it just felt all this love. So instead of like denying and pushing away, which is I'm going to say it's a masculine thing to do, but it is a block, right? It's a block when we push something away, or we deny what we really want, or we're denying our heart's desires, or we're just, for whatever reason, think that we can't. It actually attracts the opposite, right? And so when I pulled that in, I was just like, oh my God, like I've been feeling so much more love for myself, for my life, for everything I'm doing. I was just like, wow, it's like, this is what happens with shadow work when we reclaim a part of ourselves back. It's like, instead of pushing and denying a part and a need away because we're like, oh, I can't have that because of da 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 da, like whatever the story is, right? We're pushing that away. That's actually a disconnection and a separation of our own self. And we wonder why we're scattered, or we wonder why things are not working, or we wonder why whatever's happening, right? So whatever we've pushed away. So when we actually put our consciousness on it and reclaim that part of ourselves, shadow work actually brings us back to wholeness. It's like we don't have a hole anymore. We don't feel like we're empty anymore. It's like we're not like craving that thing anymore. And it's like, actually, I'm like, oh, I actually feel like more whole. Like my heart feels more love in it just from my reclaiming me back. Like, shadow work is so fucking powerful, right? And it will be in your face as well if you're not like owning what you want, right? If you're denying it, pushing it away. Now, when I said, like, when people leave me in my life, my energy field, it's taught me how to love myself. Like, that is like, you know, when people have left, like, that depth of grief has just been so deep and dark, and like just no words. And I know there's people in this live stream that will know those feelings that I'm talking about, like when a relationship has been ripped away from you and you did not want it to, right? But the thing that fucked me off the most in those moments of grief is that I fucking knew, and I was more pissed off at myself because I knew all the way back then that I should have walked away from that relationship, that I got all the signs, that I ignored them, and if I didn't ignore the signs, I wouldn't be in this mess that I'm in now. Obviously not right now, but in those times, right? And I think I was just like, oh my God. And so how did it teach me how to love myself? It taught me how to love myself so that next time something comes along and it's not quite alignment, and my like intuition's like, I'm like, okay, no, not even going there, right? That's how it's taught me to love myself. So all those failed relationships and all that torture and all that what felt like death to darkness to no coming back, right? All of that would not, like, I would not be feeling so strong now. I would not have the amount of love that I have for myself now. I would not be okay. And this is the thing that it dawned on me in the past couple of days. I was like, oh, like I've been denying the fact that I don't want a relationship, so I've pushed that part away. And that's why all these men have been turning up in my field, right? Like in that sense. And I'm just like, no. And because of what feels like so much of a relationship pain and emotional turmoil that I've been through in all my past relationships, well, not all of them, but a lot of them, from my own attachments, right? In that space, like, it's like taught me and come into this space, like I would not be feeling this level of love for myself, or, you know, like there's that part of I pushed away and didn't want another relationship because I didn't want to experience all that pain again. But when I actually bring this part of me on board and I own that fact that I actually do want a relationship, however, my discernment filter is like switched on to no tomorrow, because I won't even go there. It's like all these men turning up in my field have also been like a test, but I knew there was a deeper reason when I was like almost every fucking day. I'm like, oh, come on, like what is going on here, right? And so when I've like looked at that, you know, like it's kind of one or two, you might be like, oh yeah, but when it's like every day, it's kind of like, Hannah, you need to look deeper than this. Like there's something going on here, right? So when you like do that work, but what it's taught me is kind of like, yeah, okay, that's not what I want. Like the old Hannah would have gone back into it because it's just turned up in my field. Little did I know that I was like projecting that the whole freaking time. I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I caught this time, right? And then like pulled that in. And so when I've pulled that desire in rather than denying it, I've pulled it in, owned the fact, and given myself that love, and like reconnected back to that part of me that loves so deeply, reconnected back to me that feels so deeply in her heart, that like has a lot of love to give, that, you know, and like loves, you know, like wants that back too, like that reciprocal love, like relationship. Like when I've reclaimed that part of myself back, it has also brought back all the lessons and all those times that I will never let myself get into those situations again, because my discernment filter is on like a red radar. So that's how it's taught me how to love myself, to be able to go to those darker steps. Now, the thing is that, you know, like there's been quite a few relationships that it's taught me to get to this level. I don't know if level's the right word, you know, whereas like where I just wouldn't go there again if the signs were there. Like if the signs are there, I've kind of got enough self-love and confidence on board now to walk away, whereas in the past I didn't. What's changed? I don't know. Maybe experience, maybe doing deeper work, maybe just honoring myself with who I am, maybe age, maybe lots of factors. I don't freaking know. But I know I've been doing a fuckload of work. So it's like looking deep inside, right? And looking at what part of you is calling in that space, but being able to love yourself deep enough to not go in and ignore the red flags, right? That's what I wanted to say. So Kylie says, yes, both the relationships that almost killed me emotionally, were the ones that my gut said, don't do it. Yes, but I felt completely in love with them. Yes, I know, it's crazy, isn't it, right? We're just like, our intuition's like, But what they're doing, right, and this is where I see the gift in all those relationships, is that every one of those men taught me how to love myself more. Like, you know how I always say, like in my blogs and stuff, and even when I was talking, I'm like, those men, I'm so grateful. Now I'm so grateful. At the time I wasn't. Now I'm so grateful because I've worked through all the grief, right? Now I'm so grateful because they've taught me how to love myself. They've taught me, like, all the times that I went against my intuition, right? And I went into those relationships and I shouldn't have. They're the ones that have taught me how to love myself the most. They're the ones that have taught me the strength of my intuition. They're the ones that I've gone, wow, like, you know, you talk about live with no regrets. It's like, wow, I wonder how my life would be different if I didn't go down that path so far, right? Teaching me to love me first. Yes, exactly. Yes, 100%, 100%. Yeah. All right. I just pulled a card too for this live stream, talking about when people leave me, my life, my energy field has taught me how to love myself. Now, I just want to talk as well a bit on friendships. So this is Amazonite. So the energy of Amazonite filtering in as well as I'm talking about this on friendships, right? Because, and I know for me, like, you know, I've had obviously a history of codependency and walking away from a relationship, and especially the big one of 5 years, I was always like, you know, walking into it and I knew it wasn't right, and I'd break up, and then we'd get back together, and then I'd break up, and then we'd go back together and break up, and for me, the thing that tripped me up, right, the thing that made me fucking walk back into it was that I felt guilty. I felt guilty because whatever situation happened and it occurred, it was kind of like, oh, but maybe I shouldn't, you know, and then he'd kind of like say all these nice things and it'd be like, and then like I'd feel guilty and I'm like, okay, like the guilt is what pulled me back. And so I've also learned, if I say when people leave my life, it's taught me how to love myself. I've also learned through all of those situations, do not make decisions out of guilt. Do not feel guilty and then go, oh, well, I better make that, you know, I better do that sort of thing, right? So Jeanette says, I recently walked away from a new relationship because I trusted my intuition. Yes, that he was lying over something. It turned out my intuition was right. Of course, because that intuition is always right. Isn't it awesome when we get that confirmation as well, right? So good. So good. And the more we listen to our intuition, the stronger it gets. And the more like, you know, we learn to love ourselves through listening to our intuition as well, right? Okay, so let me see what jumps out at us through here. Okay, so with the Amazonite, so interesting, I feel like reading this. You are a flower here to bloom, no comparison. Yes, kind of looks like a flower blooming on here with Amazonite. If Amazonite has come to you today, Spirit has a message or direction concerning your chosen path in life. The time is here to empower yourself and see your achievements in life. Your progress, see? And this is where it's kind of like we can like beat ourselves up and think, oh my God, I did it again, or I went in that relationship again. Like I know for a long time I was doing that. I'm like, why did I do that again? Like, you know, I'm like, I said no, then why did I do that again? Like it was full on, right? But here it's all progress because we kind of, you know, we learn and we pick it up faster and then we kind of might go in it again, or we might just like, oh, no, I'm not going there. And then we get stronger, right? So see the progress here. Okay, see your achievements in life, your progress from that space. Make the choice or decision that you have been putting off. There we go. The reason for your delay where this change is concerned is that you or someone close to you is unable to see the bigger picture. And it's hidden from view. As it is hidden from view, a new original way or path gifted and governed by Spirit. The new solution has a shade of both black and the white. It combines all the options that have resulted in the inaction to this point. Listen to self. It only knows the truth at heart. So, and that's really awesome because that's what I wanted to talk about and I forgot. So maybe that's why it came through. Yeah, I got goosebumps. So from that space, okay, what does it say? The reason for your delay where this change is concerned is that you or someone close to you is unable to see the bigger picture. So sometimes we don't leave an unhealthy situation because we think there's nothing better, or we're scared, again, like I said originally, to face the pain of what it feels like to walk away from something. And, you know, and especially when like it's, I don't know if it's like it's new to us is the right word in that sense, but it's more like, you know, like if I look at my experience and my examples, it was kind of like every relationship definitely was better than the last one, you know, like they kept getting better and better, of course, but they still weren't totally aligned with where I was heading, you know, what was important to me, and my intuition, you know, had said it right at the start, almost at the start, I guess, in a way. But we don't want to let go because we think, you know, because usually as well, like, you know, who's had relationships and they've seemed to get better, like they're kind of just a little bit better than the last one, a little bit better than the last one, right? It's kind of like, oh, we're like, oh, well, this is better and maybe I just need to, you know, be in this, but it's like we're still ignoring our intuition. So it's like looking at the big picture as well, you know, and then that also drops into like, do you really believe that you can have what you really want? Do you really believe that you can have it all? Or are you still compromising in certain areas? The other thing too, for me personally, is like, you know, even, you know, right at the beginning, I don't know if it was right at the beginning of me starting my business online, you know, I've been doing it for years in person, but when I jumped and did like full online, like not working for anybody else but myself, is that, you know, like there was a part of, like I kept pulling the cards, I was out of a different deck. And it was like, this is a time for your career, not relationships. And it was almost like I had to choose, and I'm like, but I can have it all and I can do both, you know, and I think that that's where I was a little bit, you know, in that sense as well. I just dropped cards and I'm curious what they are. Look, right, I'll show you in a minute. So yeah, and so it was kind of like, but I can have it all and I can do it all. And like, I do believe that, But I realized looking back over this journey, it's like I've had to build, and I guess I always said to myself too, I'm like, I want to be in a certain place and, you know, position in my life. Because the other thing, I kept also attracting, you know, men that kind of like just not really got their shit together. It's kind of like some were still living with their mums, and that's fine. I understand there's all those things, but there's all these other things as well. And I'm just like, you know, a bit, I don't know if ungrounded is the word, but, you know, just still, you know, and I was like, yes, you know, everyone's where they're at and there's no judgment and stuff, but it's also like, it was a reflection of me. I'm like, I don't have my shit together. I'm like, I don't take responsibility for my life. Like, I don't do all these things, but I want a man that does. So like, how does, like, I don't know, go figure. So in that sense, it was kind of like, it's time to get your shit together, Hannah. It's time to sort out your life. It's time to like sort out all these things. And that's why, you know, I was like, right, no more, I'm just going to do this. And then someone came along and I'm like, oh, maybe I'm ready. You know, and it's like, warning bell, nah, didn't listen. Right? So it's kind of like taking that time. And I do, like, you know, recommend, obviously, you know, if you feel like you're attracting men that just got the same patterns, it's kind of like, what are those patterns reflecting back into you, and what actions you need to take into your life to build you up, like, to where you want to be. Because if you look at the sort of relationship you want, the level of relationship you want, the type of person that you want, and if you're not living that, like those aspects that you're wanting, if you're not living that, how do you expect to attract that? How do you expect to even find people like that? How do you expect to, you know, to be that person when you're not even that person in that space in your life, right? So, and you'll find that when you do that, it, like, number one, you start to feel differently in yourself. So it's like, oh, I don't actually, like, you know, you don't crave a person like that as much because you're meeting those needs for yourself, because it's actually a part of you wanting to be reclaimed for you. Yeah, like pulling this back and reclaiming you. So the cards that I dropped out are, oh, I know the things back to front, vegetarian and business venture, right? And I'm talking about like get your life in order in a way, right? Trust and follow through on a new business idea or career opportunity. And I was just saying before around, you know, like I'm like, it's like kept pulling the card. It's time for your career, not a relationship. And I was like, I don't want to see that right now. Like I knew it, but I didn't want to see it because I wanted to be with this man, like, right? So the business venture. Now it's interesting, the vegetarian card has come out, and we've just come out of the Reality Awareness support group doing the Psychic Reading Sundays. And I said in that, because this card, both these cards came out actually. And obviously vegetarian is definitely around diet and what you're eating and, you know, food, but it's also the environment that you're in, right? You know, like if you're in a work environment or a home environment that isn't like conducive to where you want to be, like that energy is affecting you, right? And so the business venture, whether it's career or a workspace or a business that you are doing, you know, like what is the direction that you're wanting to head in? Like what is it, you know, when you look ahead in 5 years time, like where do you want to be, right? And so your environment is really important. Like, yes, this can mean like cleaning your body, maybe doing more exercise. So, you know, you're in a different vibration to then, you know, birth this, you know, new life that you're wanting to create. Because whether it's business venture, it's also life purpose, and life purpose involves everything. So the vegetarian card is very much inside and outside. What are you absorbing around you in your energetic environment every day, right? That people or things that are out of alignment or they don't feel good most of the time. Like, so coming into deep alignment, because this is really important. And when we come into full fulfillment of where we are and what we're doing in our environment and in our life, that radiance like shines, yeah? And that's what attracts. That's what attracts. When we are completely feeling that of where we want to be. And it's about saying no to anything that is not that until we're there. And it's not like, oh, I'm not ready yet and I'm not perfect yet, so, you know, like I've still got more. It's not about being perfect, but it's also about having enough like self-worth and self-respect, self-awareness on board, you know, especially when, you know, relationship is like, you know, and even like I said, even friendships, as I was talking about before. Even friendships that we know we need to walk away from, doesn't have to be intimate partnership. Like sometimes we can be around friendships and we're growing and evolving, and sometimes, especially when we're building a business and like working on our life purpose, like solidly, consistently, like all the time, like we will walk we will come across people that we like, friendships that we're just like, this doesn't align anymore. And usually they're the hardest ones to fucking walk away from, right? Now it doesn't mean that you never have to speak to them again. But again, like when we make decisions out of guilt, we're like, oh, I feel like I should catch up with them because they're my friend and maybe they've been there for a long time and like, oh, I feel bad. But when we do make a decision out of guilt, not out of alignment, right? And it's like, we can already feel like it's off, or it's like, oh, like we know we need to keep moving forward on this path. But when we make a decision out of guilt, it usually, like, that's when those, you know, harsh situations come into play, right? So when we're always listening to our intuition, no matter how tricky and difficult it can be, that's when we come into the deep alignment, into our path, and that's where all the gold is, like a big amethyst cave, and they're collecting all the gold there. What to do when it's close family? Yes, good question. So it is about, like, you can energetically like disconnect, right? And that can be tricky. It can take a lot of practice, and it depends, you know, like, so for example, in a way, like obviously if you're living with them, gonna take a lot of energetic work to make sure you're disconnecting. And it's not like disconnecting from yourself. You can still stay connected without taking on their stuff. And again, there's a lot of practice in that, right? But if you're not living together, and you know, I've had clients before and they're like, oh, this, like, you know, usually a mum, or, you know, they got this, I'm going to use that example, like the mum was like ringing, like, so they're in a different country, and like every Sunday they'd have a chat, and she's just like, oh my God, but it's so draining, and it's always negative, and I don't want to do it anymore. And it's kind of like, well, why do you have to speak to them every Sunday? Well, because that's what we do. And, you know, and then it was like, well, I feel guilty if, like, she, you know, like, well, you know, mum kind of needs me, right? So I was looking at that role that we're playing in the relationship there, as well. And then it's like, you know, just like extending the contact, what is that word? Like just having more space in between. So instead of every Sunday having the call, and I'm just using that as an example, why not do it every fortnight or once a month? Or like, why do you have to speak every week, right? And again, this doesn't have to be forever, okay? This can just be for a period of time whilst you, oh, I must have shuffled the card. Whilst you get your energy in check, whilst you sort your life out, whilst you come into that deep alignment within yourself, to be able to then come back into a space where you're not affected by their energy as much. So, and sometimes when we are like moving away and we're creating a life that is quite different to the norm, the family are the ones that will fucking arc up the most. They're like, what are you doing this stuff for? You shouldn't be doing this. Get a normal job. Like, and just because they're embarrassed, they don't know what you're doing. Like, it's just different, especially if it's this sort of work, right? Like the spiritual kind of stuff. So yes, it can just take, you know, it can take a lot of walking away and walking through a lot of guilt in feeling that way. But again, it doesn't mean that you don't have to have contact. It just, it can limit that contact, and it can just be for a little while. Okay. Something else I was just going to say to that as well, and I forgot. So yeah, let me know if that helps a bit there. But yeah, it doesn't have to be forever. Hey, Leon. All right. So there was something else I was going to say about that though. Family and speaking to them, and I don't remember. Nobody knows what I'm up to. They don't really care. Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's what it was. So because when we are starting to build a business and, you know, like work on money mindset or increase, you know, our income level and grow our business and all that sort of thing, all of that, like the family generational things about like money and finances, like that all interplays in our energy field. And so obviously whoever we're around most of the time will have an influence on that, right? No matter how much work we do, it's still going to be constant in our field. Now, of course, you can work together to be able to shift together. Yes, definitely. But it's just having that awareness, especially, you know, when you look at your family patterns and habits with money, and through the generational line as well. So when we're working on growing our business and, you know, expanding ourselves and, you know, aligning with our life purpose, it's really looking at all those influencing factors in the energetic level. And I feel like that's what the vegetarian card is about. It's kind of like, what are you eating? But it's also like, what are you eating? Because we absorb energy like a sponge, right? So it's like, what energy are you absorbing? Or like, what are the thoughts of other people that you're absorbing? This is where mindset work and keeping your energy field clear self-care and looking after ourselves in those ways in all levels, right? Whether it's physical, energetical, oh my goodness, energetical, right? Whether it's energetic, it's really important to, keep all that up. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right, that is what I wanted to say about when people leave my energy field, my life. It's taught me how to love myself. No matter how dark and depth it goes, it's literally all the way down and back, because as soon as we hit through the bottom and we crack through the bottom down into the depth of the darkness, it cracks all the way back to the light. It eventually cracks through the light, or cracking up into smashing through a new reality is what happens when we howl through the veils of grief. We're literally piercing the veils into a new reality. That can feel like being a newborn baby for a while. So it's important to be gentle with yourself and be kind to yourself, and remember that each and every time it is progress. It's progress that gets us to that space that allows us to come into that deep love for self and that awareness of what's happening in your reality and in your heart. All on Throat Chakra Week, of course, right? Diving into the depths of the shadows. Energetical. I know, how awesome. Yes, you did, Shane. I'm just about to jump off though. So if you are just joining now, you can catch the replay and see how important it is that every single relationship we've had has taught us how to love ourselves and to trust our intuition more. And the more we trust our intuition, the more we love ourselves, the stronger we get, and the more we flourish in every area of our life. So all right, guys, the Reality Awareness Retreat is coming up really soon. So Wendy also says, been feeling it. I'm working on this from last week and the progress feels amazing. Yes, the progress. Yes, when we focus on the progress and we focus on where we're coming to, like that's like us trusting our intuition, because what are we focusing on? The things that are moving us forward rather than looking back, right? So not long now for Reality Awareness Retreat. Let me put the link in the comments as well. This is where we will be spending 5 days in Lombok, Indonesia, in a 5-star resort with me and more like-minded tribe. We're going to be doing light field yoga. We're going to be going to the waterfalls and doing full energetical cleanses and activations throughout the island. And I'm really looking forward to being able to support you in this amazing luxury. And the full moon ceremony will be held live in person. So I'm very excited about holding an in-person retreat, let alone the full moon ceremony as well in October. So I've just pinned that comment to the top. Otherwise you can send me a message about the retreat, but the applications will be closing soon because we are getting closer to the retreat. So let me know if you've got any questions about it, and if you think this live stream can help somebody, please share it or tag them in the comments below, and share it in a private comment with them, in a private message I should say. If you're watching on YouTube, remember to like and subscribe, and remember, it's always keeping it real, because that is reality awareness, and creating the reality that you have is becoming aware of yourself, and we are awakening the consciousness of humanity as we awaken our own heart and love and consciousness of self. Lots of love. Namaste.